Started in 1979, the fall of 1979. So I would have been out of college for 1 year, so I was 23. 23. So that was a long time ago. The person who recruited me to come to Cincinnati was starting a youth ministry, and so he wanted somebody to work in the over-the-Rhine area with Hamilton County juvenile court kids. So I told him for 1 year that there's no way I'm moving to Cincinnati and there's no way I'm working with kids. And after a year of telling him that, I finally said, okay, I'll come for 1 year, do my missionary work, and then when I figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life, I will leave. So I gave him a 1 year commitment. Moved to Cincinnati, loved the city, loved working with kids, and been here ever since.
Where'd you move from?
The Lansing, Michigan area. I lived way out in the country, but in that area. So I started with that youth organization and was working there. And 2 years into that, the board figured out that the organization was $30,000 in the red, which was a lot of money back then. And the next day, literally, I was the last one left in the office. I think we had 4 other staff. They all left that next day to get other jobs, and the executive director was let go by the board. And so I was left, and therefore I became the director. So I worked really hard rebuilding the organization, but I really wasn't very spiritually deep. I was very surface. So I was doing that all on my own power, and after about 4 years of that, I burned myself out. Juvenile court offered me a job where I didn't have to raise money, running group homes for them. I did that for 6 years, and that was a great experience for me. I just learned a lot about administration, how to work with different groups of people. And then the ministry that I was still associated with, actually at this point I had become the board chair of that youth organization, and another organization here in the city. We're talking about merger. They merged, and I became the executive director of the new organization. But in that year leading up to that merger, we did a lot of praying, and I was praying a couple hours a day, and that just revolutionized my spiritual walk. Just became so much more closer to God. He became a good friend. He became such, how would I say it, more real to me. And that was the beginning of the great ministry experience. So the merger happened January 1st of 1992. We heard in that prayer time, we heard from God that we are supposed to work very closely with churches. We're supposed to pray a lot. We're supposed to do everything based on relationships. And we're supposed to hold each other and the folks we work with accountable.
Who was there with you in the very, very beginning?
Gary Lumens, Tim William. I think those were the two that are still with us that were there then. There was Ben Huffine, Melanie Lewin. Gordon Havens came on shortly after our first merger. Those are the names that I remember. And Tim Williams has been great. He left to be a pastor at one time. And I often, when I went to that church where he was a pastor, I told him they stole my best friend from me and I was going to get him back. So when he called and said he was ready to come back, I was all excited. So that was about, he was probably maybe 5 or 6 years before he came back. So, yeah. Gordon was very concerned that I would stifle his creativity. You know, he's obviously a performer, an artist, and he was worried that becoming part of an organization that had sort of me as the administrator would stifle his creativity, so he was very concerned. I was very concerned that he would burn himself out because he was working so much. So we made a one-year commitment that he would be with us for a year to see if I stifled him, and I would commit a year to him to see if he burned out. And we've been great partners and friends since then. One of the organizations before the first merger was in a second floor of a church in a 20 by 20 room. That's where we operated out of. And let's just say it wasn't the prettiest office. The other ministry, all the buildings were pretty bad shape. And the first day in the new merged organization, we were in those facilities of the other organization. A rat ran across one of our staff's feet. Later that year, no, it was within that month, snow literally came through the window across my desk. So yeah, facilities were a major problem. A lot of funny stories with that, but I'm sure glad we don't have to do those things anymore. And then other thing was fundraising. Small organization, not many people knew about us, so raising funds. And before the merger, everybody on staff had to raise their own salary. So if you raised money, you got paid. If you didn't raise money, you didn't get paid. And we made a commitment when we made the first merger that we would all get paid or none of us would get paid. So that was a big challenge, a little bit scary to go out and say that we're all going to raise money together, but God has really blessed that. It's been good for everybody. I was always stressed about money, way too worried about money. Tim Johnson, one of our long time board members, he'd often say, "Roger, there's all sorts of money out there. God's going to take care of you. Quit worrying about it." And that lasted about 10 seconds before I started worrying again. So yeah. Was never quite sure we would make it, and definitely had to depend on God and keep praying for God to do that. So, and God has blessed that. We have done that for the last 30 years, and it's been wonderful to see God grow. And as we grew, other organizations in the city wanted to merge with us, and so we are now on our 10th merger. The first merger, we were about a $300,000 organization, and today we're an $8.5 million organization. So it's just been wonderful to see God grow and bless us.